So anyways, let's talk about Spider-Man Brand New Day. Even though it's been a few weeks, I feel like I still have a good idea of what I felt during the movie, and my thoughts on it haven't really changed at all. But yeah, Brand New Day is a fine movie. I think it's a good movie. I think it's a fun movie. It's definitely a fun movie, but unfortunately fumbles, and probably one of the much bigger Marvel fumbles, because rather than it just being a bad film all around, or something like that, where it's like, I don't know, the Marvels, or Quantumania. Was Quantumania ever really going to be that good? Even if some things, little things were tweaked? Probably not. Was Love and Thunder really going to be that good of a movie, even if you change a few things? Probably not. So I wasn't really say I was disappointed by those movies. However, Spider-Man has easily the highest highs out of any live-action Spider-Man movie, but some low lows. Now, those lows don't exceed as Amazing Spider-Man 2, or really any, like, the truly bad movies like Far From Home. But the lows are so painful that they drag the peaks so much lower than they could be. So let me get into that. Obviously, everybody has probably seen the movie, and it's pretty clear that this is probably the best display of who Spider-Man is or should be, and how the world sees him, of this figure, rather than the person, which I'll get into, but just the idea of Spider-Man, I think easily is the best done here out of any movie, live action movie that we've seen. Into and Across the Spider-Verse are by far the best, and I don't think they'll ever be beat. But anyways, the way Spider-Man is portrayed is just beautiful. The way New York is kind of shaped is very close to perfection. And I really did love that. And if anybody says they didn't love that, they're lying to you, because that is by far the best part of the movie and the best aspect of the movie. So yeah, I really love that, and I do think that Tom Holland is just able to convey that quite well. And another massive thing that contributes to that feeling is the practical suit. Spider-Man has a practical suit in this film. It is not CGI'd, and it enhances it so much, it's insane. When he's sitting there, it feels like Spider-Man is in the room with you, and it is amazing. I actually love that. There's a few scenes in the movie, like in Ned's apartment, where it's like, yep, that's literally Spider-Man sitting next to you. And it's just so uncanny seeing that in an MCU movie, or just in modern Spider-Man, because we just have not gotten that. We just haven't. We haven't gotten these nice, practical Spider-Man moments, and that adds to his depth and realness so much more than any of the CGI has. Like, that alone adds so much more to the performance and everything than any of the other movies have, especially in the Holland trilogy. Or I guess now it's a tetralogy, but anyways, that is my favorite part of the movie. The portrayal of Spider-Man. All of his web usages in the film are so, like, it's arguably perfect. The way he uses his webs is so smart and very fun, and adds to the action to the point where it's honestly shocking that I haven't really thought of that before while watching these Holland movies. Like, how boring the action has mostly been with these webs. There's so much you can do with them, and until this film they haven't really done that much with them, right? So seeing how he does it in this movie is just amazing. Loved it. Very entertaining action. I'm going to keep going with the good, and then I'll transition towards the bad. This movie is kind of a mixing pot, a melting pot of so many different things. It acts as a reset point for the MCU, and that is a good and bad thing, and I'm going to talk about the bad after. But I think what I loved about how this was a melting pot was it really did feel like a comic in scale. When you have a comic, you don't have to wait for actresses or actors to be available. You don't have to pay Captain America to be in a one panel or few page part of your issue, of your book. You can just draw him in there. Just draw him. It's it. That's it. It's that simple. You don't really need to do any of that. And yeah, context matters. If Captain America is under ice, he's probably not going to be in your comic if it's set during that time. But for the most part, that's not really an issue, and you can easily just shift the comic in terms of when the comic is, in terms of continuity, if that's ever an issue. So my point is, seeing the Hulk in this, seeing the Punisher, seeing Scorpion, seeing Tombstone, Jean Grey, Damage Control. I'm trying to list everything. I'm blanking because there's a few other things in here that are shown. But yeah, let me just drink. I know it's getting dry. But seeing all of that was really nice because it really did kind of feel like a comic. It's like, oh, he's having issues with, he kind of feels like there's a spider, whatever, his arachnoid DNA or whatever. Why don't I go to a person who's dealt with transforming into this different thing? So I feel like that, I'm talking about the Hulk there, and I feel like that logic works. It's like, yeah, why wouldn't you? So many MCU films are restricted because you simply cannot have certain characters in certain projects, whether it's for rights, whether it's for continuity, whether it's for writing, money reasons. Like, it's hard to get the people you want in everything possible. It's not going to happen. Scheduling conflicts, etc., etc. It's just not going to happen, okay? So in this, it was nice that they kind of opened it up to be able to do at least some of that. Obviously, it's Spider-Man, so they're going to give that to Spider-Man because it's literally the biggest name, maybe worldwide. I honestly could say that at this point, especially considering its box office success. You cannot deny the scale of Spider-Man. Anyways, I like that feeling that it gave to it, and I just like that the world feels lived in, despite the flaws I'm going to talk about later. What else is good about this? I don't know. It's the directing and the action and the way it's shot really does help. This is by far the best shot Spider-Man live action since, or at least of the Holland movies, and that is a very great boon. Very, very great boon. It never... Let me explain. The credits, the end credits, has this kind of like montage, collage of several shots of New York, and it's very nostalgic and nice to look at, and it sets this awesome vibe. However, the movie does not match that vibe and artsiness, so it was quite jarring. But although the film does not live up to those hypes of the end credits, and you know what I'm talking about if you've seen it, it's just all these nice shots of New York, and it shapes this kind of feeling of nostalgia and New York and whatever. The film does not live up to that at all, but it is still nice to have that, and it's still nice that some parts of the film have any sense of that, which none of the other Holland films have. Anyways, last good thing off the top of my head, the hand. I was very confused why the hand were in this in the first place. I can yap about their comic lore, I'm not going to. But having them in here was very odd. But the way they're used in the film is phenomenal. The twist of them working for Damage Control and why they're working for Damage Control makes perfect sense. At least from what I remember from the from Daredevil, because they're in Daredevil and they're very important in that. I think it does make sense that there would be this splinter group. The hand is very decentralized, in my opinion, for at least from what I've read. They're not really this centralized group, so I think that works, that a few of them would split off and work for this other evil dude. And then their action, that's the true selling point for me, was what they were doing. MCU has not really reached these highs. The MCU typically does not have good action, and that is not a hot take at all. But the way the hand were moving in this movie was phenomenal. They're jumping on each other, the stuff they're doing with their swords, and the way they're using each other to fight Spider-Man. Amazing. Phenomenal. Peak. Spectacular. What else can I say? Ultimate. There you go. I said them all. Anyways. Yeah, let's talk about the mixed and bad. Punisher's dialogue with Spider-Man and everything revolving around that is just so mid. Everything with Hulk too. Elena's inclusion is fine, but you really don't get anything of depth from Punisher and Spider-Man. It's just the same joke over and over again, and I think that's what really detracted me away. Like, a lot of people were loving it and whatever, and yeah, it's like kind of fun. It's fun, but then it's like, man, are we just gonna keep doing this over and over again? And this issue of the Punisher, I will talk about soon, in terms of continuity. But we'll get there when I get there, because that's a whole... People can say it's a non-criticism and whatever. I'll talk about that after. But yeah, I didn't really feel like the Punisher truly added much to this. There was a few, very few moments and pieces of dialogue when they're in his boat that really work. But that's really it. There isn't that much depth to him being there. And there isn't really anything from it that I truly loved from even their banter. It's just the same joke over and over again, and it gets old. I'm gonna be so honest. Okay, I'm gonna pause the recording. Actually, you know what? I'm not gonna pause the recording. I'm just gonna keep yapping. Anyways, the Hulk. The Hulk is in this, and I'm gonna ignore continuity. I think I'm going to ignore that for now. I'm going to talk about that after. But I guess he's fine in this. The biggest issue is that he turns into the Hulk and somehow is like, oh, it's Peter. What are you talking about? The Hulk never saw Peter. I don't think the Hulk has ever seen Peter, if I'm right. I mean, unless we're talking about Professor Hulk, but oh man, the continuity of the Hulk, it's a very odd issue for this film to have, and I'm gonna get into that in a bit. I just would rather talk about all of that all in one section. Let me collect my thoughts a bit better. Punisher stuff, I thought was alright. It's not that fun. It's kind of fun, but it's not that fun, and it gets repetitive. Doesn't really add that much. And then there's Scorpion. Scorpion is in this movie. That's very true. Scorpion is in this movie. Yelena is also actually kind of helps, and I think her dynamic with Peter is fine for the most part. Let's just talk about the continuity. I think that's just how I have to talk about this right now. Yelena does not feel like Yelena. Hulk is not the Hulk. Punisher is not the Punisher. Scorpion never had much character work done on him, so I can't talk about him. The Hand at least has a reason and excuse for why they are the way they are in this movie, and I thought that actually benefited the movie, and I thought that was fine. But in terms of the other three names I said, I don't know what they were thinking about. Like, I seriously don't know the thought process of how they thought, yeah, let's make Yelena this really weird person that invites people into her office, which is really just this hot tub or whatever. Like what? And she forces you to get into it and strip to get into it. What are we talking? What are we doing? Yes, Yelena has always had, she's a bit eccentric. She's a bit, different. And if we count, what she does in Hawkeye, she's a bit, what's the word? Flexible. She's a bit, nonchalant. She's quite very nonchalant, but has a much deeper core. And I feel like that is a core to her character. But she never really does anything that weird in Hawkeye. She puts ketchup in her mac and cheese, and she tries to be a bit overly goofy in Hawkeye. But it's usually toned down relatively to her and Spider-Man. And then also it's juxtaposed by her whole idea of her character, right? So I don't know the thought process before having her have this hot tub and that's her thing, and then I don't get it. I don't get it at all. Even after New Avengers, after Thunderbolts, what are we doing? That is not her. That is also not Hulk. Hulk has had horrible characterization since the start of the MCU, and this was just I'm just lost. I like how he is a professor, but then they retcon Professor Hulk for some reason, and now he has an inhibitor. Sure, why are we doing this? And it's not explained. See, that's the thing. If they at least give some sort of reason, but they don't. And it's so funny how She-Hulk has better continuity with the greater MCU than this movie, which I get. This movie is supposed to be a reset point. It's supposed to be the actually, guys, you don't need to watch all that crap that we released. We understand. We might have fumbled. This is for the general audience. This is how it is now. Look at this crazy Yelena. Look at her. Look at Hulk. Oh, he can Hulk out. You guys like Hulk, right? And Punisher. He's so goofy and funny. You know what? You guys like Punisher in this. You should... Guys, we have a special on Disney Plus. You guys should start watching Daredevil. Aren't you guys hyped for Doomsday yet? So it's like, yeah, they're trying to consolidate the MCU and make it these very superficial things to get people on board, which is fine. However, it is stupid and it's poorly written, and anybody would be lying to you if they said that isn't the truth. Sure, you might have enjoyed it, but it's just the truth. It is incredibly inconsistent with what comes before. So yeah, it's just funny that Hulk is portrayed that way. And yeah, Professor Hulk might have known, he knows Peter or whatever. I don't understand. The way they do Hulk is really bad in the MCU, so it's really hard to say exactly what's going on here. And if we're going to say that Hulk remembers Peter, but Banner doesn't, that's fine. But why would we have any reason to think that prior to this movie? So yeah, I don't know. Whatever. Technically, that is non-criticism and doesn't actually matter for the themes of this movie and for the quality of this movie. And comics, a lot of people say, well, in the comics, X, Y, and Z. The comics have such spotty writing 99% of the time, and the comics are incredibly inconsistent with one another. Literally, issue to issue, the continuity shatters. So, I'm not trying to lessen the issue of the MCU continuity, because it's much worse in the comics, but anybody who says in the comics, they're lying to you and they're stupid. Anyways, the biggest assassination, I feel, was Punisher. I don't know what the heck they did to Punisher in this movie, but he's basically just consolidated and morphed into this surface level, I need to kill to stop crime, and that is the only way. There is no other way. But I also have a secret past that you don't know about. And it's just so lame. It's just so lame. No, Frank, you can't use lethal force. Why would... I'm telling you not to use lethal force. What about, they have lives? And he's saying, yeah. So it's like, stuff like that. It's just that over and over again. And I think that's what makes their dynamic so frustrating to watch unfold. Because at the beginning of the movie, it's like kind of okay, but also does not make sense. If Punisher is like this true menace to society, where he's genuinely killing innocents and stuff like that, how has Spider-Man not locked him up yet? Like, it doesn't make sense. I understand Spider-Man doesn't have to have the most black and white morals. He doesn't need to lock up every single person that kills innocents. And he does believe in second chances, which is why he imprisons all the bad guys and doesn't try to kill them, right? And even Daredevil understands this. That's why he tries to get Punisher in jail. Actually, he tries to plead for him to not be in jail, actually, in the show. But whatever. That's kind of contradicting my point, but what I'm trying to say is I feel like there would be no exact reason. I'm going to pause. Hold on. Daredevil. What he actually wants with Punisher is that he gets the help he needs. So the whole point is like, if he's not going to, let's not just shove him into jail and act like that is the end all be all. Let's actually find some solution because he sees so much good in him. Spider-Man does neither. He doesn't try to prevent the deaths that Punisher does until he doesn't prevent it. He just tries to avenge it. Where when he's already in pursuit, then he'll try to stop him. He only does it because he just spots him chasing the tank, right? He doesn't do it because, you know what, he can do this. He can kill innocents, and he will kill innocents. So let me stop him before that happens. It's more of, suddenly he's in this battle, and he can do that, so might as well do that. So what I'm trying to say here is There's no proactive on actions on Peter's part. He knows where Punisher lives, but he hasn't taken the effort to get him in jail or get him the help he needs. He just lets him do his thing, gets mad at him, but then kind of lets him do his own thing. So it's very contradictory where he's saying, "No, you can't use your way. You can't do it your way. You can't use lethal force. Blah 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 blah." But then you're not actually like doing anything about it. You're just arguing with him. There's no actual moral dilemma there, and there's no actual effort from his part to fix that. And that's why Daredevil season 2 is quite good, and that's why you all should watch Daredevil, because it is genuinely the greatest 3 seasons of superhero television. Anyways, yeah, Spider-Man's, I don't know, that's my biggest issue with Spider-Man in this movie. I'm not sure why they do that. I'm really not sure. I understand it's funny and all, but it's like lame. And it would have been nice to at least have something like that where some sort of explanation as to why Peter hasn't locked him up yet. Obviously, he knows there's a second chance for Punisher. He knows that. We all know that. But he also thinks the same for Scorpion. He thinks the same for Vulture. Every single villain that he's captured, he thinks the exact same thing. So, why is Punisher any different? That's my question. It's not. He is regressed to the most shallow form of the Punisher, and is played as a joke in this movie. And I think that's pretty lame and boring, and it's just not good. Why can't we have a movie where you get all of the parts that you assembled and built up with, and all of the depth that you've built up, and put them together to make something even deeper than what you've done previously? Why can't we have this true moral battle between Spider-Man and Punisher? The movie can be fun and still dive deep into these concepts and ideas. Daredevil is an incredibly fun show. That show is so much fun. That show has better action than any MCU movie. It has better fight scenes than any MCU movie. That is bar none. Like, it's not a debate. And yet it goes into these themes and ideas and character growth that is so fascinating that you learn from. And that is the beauty of movies and stuff like that. That's the beauty of art, is that we want to learn. We want to understand each other, and we want to learn and grow. Otherwise, we're just sedating ourselves. And sedation does nothing but delay the problem. So, anyways, I think this film could have been a lot better, at least in that sense, considering how important Punisher is to the entire story of this movie and the entire plot of this movie. He's in so many scenes. He's in way more. I thought he was going to be like a 5-minute cameo, but he wasn't. He's a very core part of this movie. And yeah, at the end of the movie, he plays a role in that. And like when he's in the hospital, the post-hospital, actually the hospital scene itself is a half decent scene. And then when all the crowd outside is cheering for Spider-Man to get better, and they see him in the window, that scene was amazing. I love that scene. It was great, but it didn't earn that scene at all. And yeah, it's just frustrating. It's just frustrating. And a lot of you are probably thinking, well, what did you expect? I don't give a damn about expectations. The expectation is make art. Go deeper. Let's grow. And the film doesn't do that, right? It's a Marvel movie. I don't care. You think I care who makes the movie? You think I care what ideas are in the movie? You should still be good. You should still be tackling things that everything should be. Like, it doesn't... I'm going to make a whole video talking about common things said about movies that absolutely launch me to hell, and they piss me off. And that's one of them. What did you expect is the worst response anybody can give you on anything when talking about anything. If you ask me that when I'm talking about a movie or anything, I am chopping off your head. That's it. It's done. I'm not talking to you again. Like, I view you as a lower life form because it is a non-criticism. What did you expect? I don't care what I expected. I'm telling you what it is. This is how it is. This is why the film is not as good as it could have been. Did I expect better? No, probably not. Does that matter? No, because I'm judging it based on its merits, not on what I thought it could have been or thought it would have been. Anyways, I'm kind of yapping, but that's okay. I actually think that is the strength, and that's actually what I want to do. I want to yap, and I think that is a bit more informative than if I did some sort of structured explanation of my thoughts, because then I feel like I would miss a lot, especially as I think on the spot. Anyways, talking about the bad of the movie, the true bad of the movie. Jean Grey. Jean Grey is awful. Jean Grey, this is one of my least favorite MCU villains by far. In that we have bad villains like Malekith. You probably, listening to this, don't know who Malekith is. And that makes complete sense. He is by far the most forgettable villain in all of the MCU. He's awful. He's so bad. No, I don't remember a single line of dialogue. I just remember him because he's so forgettable. But the thing with Malekith is he isn't actively like ruining the film or ruining this character. Malekith is just kind of a stand-in to this evil force in the movie. Meanwhile, Jean Grey is a genuine character we will be seeing in the future. And within the bounds of the movie, her actions don't make sense, are incredibly stupid or villainous, over-the-top villainous. Her dialogue is awful. And in terms of the scope of the movie and the entire point of the movie, the climax of the movie relies on Jean Grey. And yet it falls flat. Malekith, at least, does not fulfill that role. I understand that and you're wondering what movie he's in. He's in Thor: The Dark World. I don't know if I mentioned that. But the thing is, that movie, shockingly, is able to do a lot more with its arcs. Like, he is not involved in their arc. He is just kind of the villain they have to fight. Which, I can explain what's bad about that movie, sure. But the crux of the movie is not based on him. And, well, the crux of that movie is probably awful too. I don't even remember it. But my point is, the reason why she's such a bad villain in this, despite having so much more said about her than Malekith, is that she's actively hurting the film rather than kind of being a non-factor in it. So, let's talk about her dialogue. Her dialogue is not only performed very stale, but it's overly villainous. I'm not really sure what the intent was here, because she genuinely talks like a mustache-twirling villain for 90% of the movie until we truly learn who she is and when she gets captured. And it doesn't make sense why. I'm completely okay if there is some sort of like explanation as to why. But there just isn't. It doesn't align with who she ends up becoming later in the movie, or who we find out she is to be later in the movie. And what I mean by this is, she is this hurt, tragic, young lady, teenager. I'm not entirely sure. I'm going to assume, they probably show her age, but I don't remember. I'm going to assume she's like very young adult, maybe 20s, like very low 20s. And she's broken because her sister was taken away from her unfairly. There's something with her parents there's some issue with her parents. And rather than being this broken person, she's just a mustache twirling villain. And it loses so much of her depth. And because they try to make her so overly villainous, they literally make her attempt to kill Mary Jane. And I'm pretty sure she does. I don't remember her actually killing the person, but she does throw somebody into a moving car. And online, people say that she killed the person. I'm pretty sure she doesn't. But there was intent to kill. And that is the point. She tries to kill so many people throughout the film. And that is not justified by her losing her sister. These are innocent people. She does try to kill Spider-Man, but that makes sense. Spider-Man is technically in her way. The people at Damage Control are evil people, actively caused her harm and killed her sister. So it makes so much sense why she would want to kill them, and it makes so much sense if she does, and she does. At least from my memory, she kills like a ton of them. And I'm completely okay with that. There's a very valid reason as to why she would do that. And it makes sense despite her brokenness, right? So, sorry, not despite her brokenness, but it makes sense in line with her brokenness. She is seeking revenge, so why wouldn't she want to kill the people who are actively hurting her? Yeah, sure, man. Yeah, that works. I agree with that. But the thing is, the film doesn't stop there, and it goes to these incredibly villainous lengths that just shatter her. How am I supposed to feel that much empathy for this character when she's actively killing innocent people? Punisher does not kill innocents. Whether or not you believe they have a second chance or not, the men he kills are, for the most part, not innocent. They have some ties to something, regardless of how they got into where they got. 99.9% of the time, the people Punisher hurts is intentionally hurts. Sorry, 100% of the time, the people Punisher kills are not innocent. And that is why the Punisher works. That's why we empathize with him. We understand his reasoning. He has a very similar motivation to Jean Grey, and yet we get nothing between them. We get absolutely nothing between them, which is kind of okay. We don't need to cross over Punisher and Jean Grey because we actually do that crossover with Peter. So, it's like whatever. We don't need to, as much as I feel like it enhances your thing when you have it all connected and, the meaning of it all. Punisher kind of acts as like a this is what you can become for Peter. And that, strengthens his morals and decision making and why he talks to Jean Grey the way he does. He doesn't want to villainize her, whatever. But we cannot treat what she does lightly, and we can't act like she doesn't literally kill innocents, or at least attempt to kill innocents. And if it was properly built up to and actually made sense why, then I'd be okay with it. If she got proper judgment or consequence for it, then I would be okay with it. And for anybody saying that in the X-Men film she will get justice for this, no, that does not count as criticism, and that is retarded. That is retarded. There should have been something. She just should not have been killing innocents. It's that simple. She should not have been trying to kill innocents, and it completely shatters who she is. It also does not make sense that she would be fighting against Spider-Man, even though that Spider-Man was actively getting into her ways. Once Spider-Man learns what happens, he's on her side and fights for her. So why, it just doesn't make sense for somebody based in New York to not really see, not try to ask Spider-Man for help first. If that happened and there was some sort of reason Spider-Man denied her cry for help or something like that, I'm not saying she had to do a cry for help. I'm not saying that. But I think it's very odd that she would jump to greatly attacking Spider-Man and doing it the way she wants to do it, rather than being like, wait, why am I fighting this guy? Why am I literally inside his apartment trying to kill his girlfriend and throwing innocents into cars? Why don't I just tell him what's up? Do you not see Spider-Man as the beacon of hope that everybody else does? There's nothing in this film to indicate that she would see Spider-Man in a villainous way. Not the way JJJ sees him, or there's other characters in Spider-Man comics that will be like, Spider-Man is actually not the hero that you all see, right? And that's all fine because they have reasons for it. And that's, as I said, fine. But there's no reason for her to do that. So why would she not try to get help? And she can literally protect her identity too. She can go through a different human being to talk to him, right? And it's it's just doesn't make any sense. It just doesn't. It's stupid. And I understand that, she's so angry. She's seeking, she doesn't think about that because she's just so angry and so filled with grief. But I honestly don't feel that works as an explanation. And I think it shatters. It just does not make it makes the film worse that we do it in that sense. I would be completely okay if they did somewhat team up, but then the twist of it is that she takes it too far. And he isn't thinking that she would kill someone at first. but then she tries to kill like the people in damage control. That makes sense, and that would greatly enhance the conflict, and wouldn't feel the way I'm feeling about it, where it's just this manufactured conflict that doesn't have any basis to it. Yeah, I think another thing is just how Sadie Sink also says all of her lines. The overly villainous way she says it is just awful. It's very unrelatable, which doesn't need to be, but the way they portray their character, it's like it's so hard to care about her at all, even when her motives are explained, because she's just doing such obscene things and there's no actual meaning to it. Um, I'm gonna keep yapping about this point, but Magneto, you hear what he does and you see what he does, and it makes complete sense. That's all I'm gonna say. It makes sense. Hers does not. Um, yeah, I don't know what Sadie Sink. I don't know why she's like phoning it in this, but um. Anyways, let's continue. I think the climax of Jean. I'm gonna talk about her comic counterpart, but the climax of Jean doesn't also make any sense, and it just feels so unearned and cheap. Um, with Spider-Man having this, this memory of May that pertains to him, and then her saying that to Jean Grey, and then that, making her feel all better and realizing that what she's doing is too far and that she shouldn't be, but it doesn't work. And the reason it doesn't work is that she doesn't have anybody around her. She doesn't have any friends. She doesn't have any family. So it's like it's just so odd the way that scene is worded and everything. I don't know word for word, and I'm not, saying it word for word because I don't remember the exact words, but I remember it not relating at all because it just doesn't. She says something about family and how, like, it's just so odd because it just doesn't work. And you got to think that they had some different plan with this movie, and then they kind of swapped in Jean Grey. But anyways, it's just weird. And even there's a scene with the flashback of Jean Grey and her sister, and like when she got captured, and the dialogue is so bad. It's so bad. It's awful. They just like expedite her trauma with her parents and stuff, and it's like, what the heck are we doing? Anyways, yeah, her comic counterpart, this is not the same character at all, which is fine. Once again, just because it's in the comics doesn't mean it has to be in the movies. If it's done better in the comics, I usually do fight for the comics, but if you do it differently and it's still good, I don't care. But this is just like, I don't know, it's kind of like good reference. It's kind of a gray area because Jean Grey's youth isn't really delved into too much in the comics, so she realistically could have done a lot, and it is known that she kind of had a troubled youth, and that's why Professor X does a lot to her brain to prevent that in the future. And then she becomes a lot more mellow, and like she's basically like the heart of the group, in my opinion, because she's just this very stable, morally, ethically stable person. Yeah, there's Dark Phoenix, but that's like not her fault. Anyways, yeah, I don't know. Jean Grey just felt so fumbled in this, and then just so overly villainous that it just ruined all my enjoyment, because every time she spoke, it just knocked the film down, and that was like so much of the movie. Like, she is such a core part of the movie and speaks for so much of it. So yeah. But anytime we had Spider-Man swinging around and doing his thing, it was very fun and very good and very well done. Not sure what else to say here. I have some ideas about Ned and MJ, and they're a bit stale. But, I wouldn't mind too much. I think it's kind of lame that they reverse the spell Um, at the end of the movie, he's able to dap up Ned, and I think that's the intent of that, is that this gets the spell reversed, and I think that completely shatters the entire point of this movie, and especially in line with Sadie Sink. It actually doesn't make any sense the more I think about it, because the whole idea with Sadie Sink is like, yes, you lost your family, you lost this thing that you love, but then she's on the bus going to the Xavier Institute where she'll find her new family for life. And then it's like with Spider-Man, it's like, well, you did lose your family because XYZ. But now you're just going to go back to them. So he did learn, but really didn't learn the entire point of the movie and the point of No Way Home. And you could argue a few things against that, but I still think it hurts the movie a lot that he went back and that this spell is basically reversed now. If he gets with what's her name, MJ, I really truly think that the film like really hurts a lot of the point of Brand New Day and No Way Home. So, and it also hurts the entire core point of Brand New Day with his whole conversation with Sadie Sink, that you gotta, things happen and you know, like life is life, that's part of it, and now you gotta just grow. You can't let that completely stop you and shape you into this horrible person. You have to work with that and grow from that, and you're gonna meet new people, and you're gonna share new experiences, and you're gonna love again, right? So whatever. Marvel needs their money. That's kind of the end of the day. That's kind of the summary. Marvel needs their money, but there's still a decent amount of heart in this movie that I think is worth the watch. I just don't think the glaze this is getting is so, it's absurd. It's just that the high highs of the Spider-Man idea and what they do with him is just so good in this that it's really tricking people into thinking that this film is good, but it's just that aspect. There's probably more things I can think about if I really sat here and talked more. I'm probably just gonna upload this whole thing in full. I'm not gonna sit through this. Um, but yeah, this is it's an alright movie. It's one of the better live action Spider-Man movies. Nothing will beat two. Nothing will beat the Raimi trilogy, I think. I could dive into that, but anyways, I think that's about it.